Live from the KWQC Broadcast Center, this is TV6 News at 6.
Tracking storms moving into the area. We'll have your first alert forecast in just a moment.
If it wasn't for him and another couple guys that were sitting there, it could have been a lot worse than it was.
County supervisor hailed a hero after a shooting at the Jackson County Courthouse. The development details tonight.
People should have that opportunity and that choice everywhere.
At a rally for a local man convicted of drug charges, we now know what the judge decided, whether or not to send a man to prison. But first, we are tracking a lot of storms on the radar tonight, some of which could be severe. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Gary Mativier. Paula is on vacation. As you see the storms moving through the area right now, let's hand it over to Chief Meteorologist Eric Maitland for the very latest forecast.
Yeah, we've got a news crew up in Kwqc that says the leading edge of the storm is looking fairly dark, and it's already raining there, some lightning and thunder as well. And we'll go back to our radar now and let you know that the radar is going to look like this pretty much all night. We've already got some widespread showers and some thunderstorms, and we're going to see wave after wave after wave of rain and heavy rain continue to come out of southwest Iowa and moving through our part of the Mississippi Valley, and that will set the stage for an additional 1 to 3 inches of rain tonight on top of the 1 to 3 inches of rain we had last night. And there you can see right now we've got some heavier rain just getting out of Knox County, also some in west central Illinois and southern Hancock County. Then around the Quad Cities, some heavier rain coming in from the west down Interstate 80. The lightning right now happens to be right over Kwqc on Highway 61. And as we take a look at what we've got in store for the evening, well, the slight risk of severe weather could be in the form of some strong winds a little bit later on this evening. And then over the entire area through tomorrow morning, a flash flood watch, because again, we're going to be dealing with more rain piling up on what saturated the ground last night. So flooding is probably the most likely thing that we'll see on a widespread basis as we go through the night. Heavy rain at midnight and some scattered storms through the evening. Temperatures don't drop much more than the low 70s. It looks like by noon tomorrow that rain will start tapering off.
Eric, thank you. And right now, we will tell you the 5 outdoor warning sirens in East Moline are offline. So people in East Moline, caution to use your weather radios. Of course, we'll be very closely monitoring these storms throughout the night. If and when severe weather happens, of course, you count on KWQC to bring you all the information you need on air and online. Channel 6, weather 24/7, 6.2, and online at kwqc.com. Now to develop a story tonight out of Kwqc, a courthouse shooting that has left one man dead and another injured. We have live team coverage for you tonight, beginning with KWQC's Brian Bozen, who's been there all day long, bringing us up to speed on what has happened there. Brian?
Gary, tonight, Gary, police say that the gunman, Francis Gus Glaser, walked through the doors of the courthouse that you see behind me here in Jackson County this morning, carrying a briefcase. Inside that briefcase was a gun, and there were no metal detectors or security guards. Because of that, he was able to walk that gun straight into the supervisor's meeting. The building and all Kwqc schools were on lockdown this morning after Sheriff Russ Kettman says a man inside the Board of Supervisors meeting pulled a gun and opened fire just before 11 this morning. That man, as we said, has been identified as former city manager, 71-year-old Francis Gus Glaser. The sheriff says Glaser has been angry lately over his property taxes. He says today Glaser in that meeting got very vocal. The meeting was then recessed. Then Glaser pulled out a gun, he says, out of that briefcase, fired one shot at County Assessor Deb Lane as she was leaving the room. She was not hit. The county supervisor, Larry Kwqc, was nearby, tackled Glaser. 2 others then jumped in nearby, and during that struggle, police say a second shot went off from Glaser's gun, hitting Glaser, who died soon after. Many courthouses have heavy security. This one does not, so we asked how Glaser was able to bring in a firearm. Do you know for sure if he was wanted and checked out before he entered the building today?
He was not.
Is that maybe because of his current or his previous status?
He has showed up several meetings prior to this with the same issue and always had a briefcase with him. You know, so
that wanding process is only for high-profile kind of court cases. It's not happening all the time at our courthouse.
Chief Brad Caranda told us when Glaser was shot, he still had the gun in his hand and the finger on the trigger. Larry Kwqc was treated for cuts to his wrist and arm and released after he was broke through a plate glass window inside the courthouse. That happened during the struggle. Sheriff Kettman says it's going to take a few days to sort all this out. He says hopefully they can learn a lot from what happened here today, and he hopes to make the courthouse safer. He said you never think it's going to happen, but today it did. Reporting live in Kwqc, Brian Bozen, TV6 News.
Brian, thank you. Yeah, a lot of questions still unanswered there tonight. A shooting, as you heard, happened during a meeting over property assessments. Eyewitnesses say Glaser was upset that his taxes has been raised over the years and brought a gun to that meeting in that suitcase Brian was telling us about. And our team spoke with one woman who left that courthouse moments before the shooting. With that part of the story, our team coverage continues with KWQC's Katie Alexander. Katie?
Well, Gary, people are obviously very shaken up by what happened here today, both inside and outside the courthouse. We talked to a woman who lives in this building right up the street here, right above this law office, and she says she was standing at her window on upstairs as the shooting happened. She saw as emergency crews then quickly got to the scene, filling this block. Then she says she saw police with their guns drawn run into the building. She says it was a very scary sight. And it was also a very scary sight inside the courthouse, obviously. The news director of the radio station KMAQ was there, rushing into the room right after the incident happened. She says she has mixed feelings about what she witnessed.
I mean, it's a normal supervisors meeting that you're going to see every Tuesday morning that you go to and cover. And then today, of course, it's quite different. And it was, I was glad to see the supervisor was fine. But just seeing, Gus Glaser on the floor like that with, in the situation he obviously was in, is hard on anybody.
And people who were here this morning say it's also scary to think what else could have happened. The woman who lives up the street here says she works in the building and left just an hour, even less than an hour, before the shooting took place. She says she's extremely concerned for everyone else who works there. Gary?
All right, Katie and Brian, thank you very much for your coverage tonight, and count on KWQC to bring you continuing coverage of this story. More tonight at 10, and follow details online right now at KWQC.com. Davenport police tonight are searching for a suspect in connection with a stabbing. 2 people stabbed at an apartment building on 11th Street and Bridge Avenue at around 11 last night. 1 person died on scene. The second was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Police are looking for this man, Gary Michael Fortune, 48 years old, and now charged with murder. He may be driving a 2001 gray Chevy Blazer, Iowa plate CEX 285. Police consider him dangerous. If you see him or the vehicle, contact police. Trial is underway for a Quad City doctor accused of sexually abusing patients. In October 2012, Dr. Norman Williams of Silvis was arrested on 4 counts of sexual assault and 1 count of abuse. He was originally accused of sexually abusing 2 of his patients, but 3 other former patients have come forward and accused him as well. Williams says he is not guilty. A man convicted of drug charges will receive probation and not prison time. Bailey Dietz is live in the newsroom tonight. Bailey, Benton McKenzie's sentencing brought out some protesters.
It did, Gary. A group of supporters walked to the courthouse, many with signs in hand reading things like "Free Benton McKenzie." Some also going inside the courtroom to hear McKenzie's sentencing. He and his family sat together with their attorneys and were given a chance to speak on their situation and ask for leniency from the court. In 2013, a raid at their Long Grove home, deputies found 71 marijuana plants and growing equipment. McKenzie says he grew them to use the cannabis oil to treat his angiosarcoma. Judge Henry Latham told McKenzie that while what he chose to do is illegal in Iowa, in this case, he used his discretion considering his condition, now granting him probation for the crime, and it's an outcome that McKenzie is grateful for.
I'm pretty relieved about the sentencing. I mean, I shouldn't have been sentenced in the first place, but it's much easier to fight from out here, both legally and health-wise.
McKenzie says he definitely will appeal, though. As for his cancer treatment, that's all still in limbo. He's hoping to be granted permission to travel to Oregon or to be able to live there. The judge basically said, though, that if he violates his probation in any way, he will go to jail. Tonight at 10, what McKenzie and others think that this decision means for medical marijuana cases in the future. Live in the newsroom, Bailey Dietz, KWQC TV6 News.
Bailey, thank you. Voters in Bettendorf have until 8 p.m. tonight to vote on a property tax increase. The money would go toward improvements at the public schools. One of the biggest improvements would be at the playgrounds. The money would also go toward fixing the cracks at the tennis courts and adding a track at Bettendorf Middle School. The district says it would cost the average homeowner an extra $12.88 a year. Still to come, an underreported crime grabbing national headlines. How the Ray Rice punch of his now wife is raising awareness about domestic violence right here.
And most areas topping off in the 70s today, but as we go through the night, we're looking at a repeat of the heavy rain. 1 to 3 inches last night, 1 to 3 more as we get into our Wednesday. The latest in your First Alert forecast next.
And now, the Quad City's most reliable forecast with Chief Meteorologist Eric Maitland.
Well, maybe you can catch up on your sleep tomorrow night because, again, tonight, just like last night, there will be a lot of us tossing and turning as the continuous thunder kind of plagues our slumber. And here's a look at the rain from last night. Again, in general, the highest amounts range from about 1 to 3 inches, even 3.7 inches a little farther west of the Metro Quad Cities, where we topped off at about 2.2 inches. Mind you, I'm throwing in a lot of rain gauges that aren't on this map. So 1 to 3 inch rain last night. We're going to do about the same again tonight, and you can see it's already starting. Some very heavy rain, not just the greens on the radar, but the oranges and the reds, and wave after wave of this kind of rain is going to move through the area during the overnight hours, starting to taper off toward the late morning hours of our Wednesday, and then we start to get a chance to dry out, at least for Thursday. Maybe some light rain Friday, but this is going to be the big rain that we talk about, which will likely produce some flash flooding as we go through the overnight hours. Right now, we've got some heavy rain leaving Knox County, some heavy rain encompassing most of McDonough County. We come back north around the Quad Cities, some moderate showers coming in now from the west, right down Interstate 80. And right where we had our live reports from Maquoketa a little earlier, some heavier rain, even some lightning, some thunder in Maquoketa right now. And as we look back off to the west, again, there's wave 1. Here's wave 2. We're going to continue to see development off to our west towards southwestern Iowa. That's where I think the bulk of the severe weather is going to be. But as any of these storms moves through the area tonight, there will be the possibility of some strong winds. 58 miles per hour or higher than that is the low-end criteria for severe storms in terms of the wind. I think we could see a few warnings based on that. But again, we'll also see heavy rain, and that lightning is going to become more numerous during the overnight hours, and that's going to give us that thunder. So the flooding threat here high, flash flooding, and as far as the wind threat, that's more of a moderate risk, low-end threat of hail or tornadoes, and the tornadoes will be prominent back off to our west, it appears. 73 in the Quad Cities now, 68 in Galesburg, 70 in Monticello, 73 in Galena. And again, those dew points in the 60s. You felt that increase in humidity today. That's the moisture that's going into causing all these showers and thunderstorms. So as we go through the evening, here comes wave 1 moving on through, a wave 2 behind it, and a little bit earlier perhaps than it shows here. But by the time we get to 10, 11, midnight, we will be encompassed by some very heavy rain across the area. And even in toward daybreak tomorrow, heavy rain moving east of the Mississippi. Then things taper off the first part of our day. And in the afternoon, clouds, maybe a random shower, but temperatures cooling off, I think, after the lunch hour. And as far as the rain is concerned, I think we could easily add perhaps an inch or 2 to some of these totals, coming in between 1 and 2 inches here. Yeah, it's just going to be that kind of night. So hopefully the sump pump has battery backup. 71, showers and storms, some heavy rain and windy conditions overnight. 76 tomorrow, occasional showers, especially early, then cloudy and windy in the afternoon. And as we look at our temperatures in the 7-day planner, that's what's going to be most affected by our front that moves through Wednesday. 65 Thursday, 58, some rain showers possible Friday. And as we get toward the weekend, we dry off mid-60s and then back to the 70s Monday and Tuesday.
Nebraska and Iowa Army National Guard units have delayed drills this month because of a federal funding shortage that has affected thousands of Army National Guard units across the country. Colonel Greg Hapgood of the Iowa National Guard says the delays affect most of the state's 7,200 members. A $100 million funding gap is to blame. Efforts are now underway in Congress to get funding reallocated so the drills can be held. Up next on KWQC News at 6.
You think they're gonna be better, or next time it won't be as bad, or next time he won't break this bow.
A local woman in a shelter who says the Ray Rice knockout punch that has grabbed national headlines is all too familiar. Her powerful story up next. The Baltimore Ravens cut running back Ray Rice after video emerged showing him knocking his then-fiancée unconscious. KWQC's Courtney Yoon reports how this incident is bringing awareness to domestic violence.
My stomach dropped. I know that feeling all too well.
This woman, a victim of violence, says she's lived through similar abuse. She's watched the video of Ray Rice knocking out his then-fiancé.
She hasn't left for a reason.
It's a fear she once shared with her own abuser.
If you don't stand by their side, it's going to be 10 times worse when things calm down. You think they're going to be better, or next time it won't be as bad, or next time he won't break this bow.
For her, she says enough was enough, and she made the decision to leave.
If he kills me where I was, nobody would have known. It was time. And I knew that.
Winnie's Place is an emergency shelter for women victims of violence. Manager of the shelter says national stories like the case with Ray Rice brings awareness to domestic abuse, but it's still one of the least reported crimes.
It's happening every day in our neighborhoods. There's people that you come in contact with that you're probably unaware of that are in domestic violence situations, and we need to be aware of what's going on around us.
Dr. Jackson Katz has trained NFL teams and coaches across the nation with his program called MVP, or Mentors in Violence Prevention.
Working with athletes, one of the things we talk about is because they have this prominent spotlight, because they have the respect of so many people, they can play a really positive and constructive role. Until this moment with the Ray Rice incident, there's been very little pressure on the NFL to actually do something different.
Dr. Katz says the NFL could be using their power to help prevent domestic violence, hoping the Ray Rice case will make that happen.
If we could get them to start standing up and speaking out and talking about ways of being a man that does not involve hurting women, that has men standing up as allies to women in the fight against rape and domestic violence.
In Davenport, Courtney Yoon, KWQC, TV6 News.
Dr. Katz will have a lecture about gender violence prevention at St. Ambrose University tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. The event is free and open to the public. Still to come in sports, Tom sets the stage for this week's Iowa State football feud. Up next.
You're watching sports with Tom Cornelis.
It's Cyhawk Week in Iowa. The football forces at Iowa and Iowa State gearing up for their annual battle set for 2:30 Saturday in Iowa City. Now, the Hawkeyes lead the overall series 40-21. They won last year's game in Ames 27-21. But the Cyclones won at Kinnick Stadium 2 years ago 9-6. And both camps know there's no pep talk needed for this one.
It's Iowa State week, which is a big week for this entire state, and it's going to be a big challenge for us. So, basically, it really doesn't matter if it's here in Kinnick Stadium or over there. It doesn't really matter what the year is. It's a big game for everybody involved and an exciting game for everybody involved, and I think probably fair to say it's that way for all the fans, either side, in state and beyond state. So, it's a big week, and we'll be eager to get going here this afternoon.
It's Iowa State week, so, it's one of the biggest weeks of the whole season. The coaches are going to be stressing that all week. We had a whole week dedicated to them during the summer just to, focus on them and just realize how big this rivalry really is and what it means to Hawkeye fans and Iowa State fans alike.
There's definitely a lot more excitement, anytime you face an in-state rivalry, it was the same with UNI. Obviously, it's not on the same sort of level as Iowa State, but, there's a lot more excitement, a lot more tempo at practice, just getting ready for the game.
Growing up, it's just how this state responds to this week and this game. It doesn't matter what part of the state you're in. You're either at the stadium or you're at a party with all eyes on the game. That's a pretty neat deal to feel and be a part of.
Rivalry week, and it's everything between Iowa State. Like I said, I was talking about family and friends, and it's bragging rights for the year. It's bragging rights at Christmas, Thanksgiving.
It's just going to be a lot of fun playing at Kinnick, and even playing them in general for our team too, because it's a game talked about all year by both teams and both fans. It's an awesome feeling getting to go into this week. Obviously, getting to play in Iowa City it's obviously a pretty crazy environment.
And the race to carry that Cy Hawk trophy off the field is always an exclamation point to that intense in-state showdown. The Hawkeyes may be a bit battered and bruised for Saturday's showdown. All-American offensive lineman Brandon Scherf suffered a minor knee injury last week, reportedly had it scoped. He's listed as day-to-day according to his coach Ferentz, but Scherf says himself he's out. And the defensive tackle Drew Ott was banged up in a moped accident over the weekend. He took a couple of stitches, but he says he's good to go for Saturday. Hawkeye fans who didn't get a chance to catch the Iowa baseball team in action this past season can catch a game here in the Quads this Sunday. Hawkeye hardballers will be at Minor Woodman Park. The Hawks will open their fall season against the Ontario Blue Jays, one of the top amateur teams in Canada, 2 p.m. Sunday, and the concessions and Ferris wheel will be open.
Well, that sounds like a nice time, especially when the weather's going to be a little fall-like. We've got those showers and thunderstorms across the radar right now. That will continue to be the trend as we go through the evening and then tonight. And biggest threat here will be the heavy rain, although there's a slight risk for some severe winds, but a flash flood watch encompasses the entire area right through tomorrow morning. Another 1 to 3 inches of rain likely on top of the 1 to 3 that we had last night. So temperatures just dropped to the low 70s, back to the mid-70s tomorrow.
Busy night for you to come still. Hellos from the Rock Island Grand Prix in the Scott County Pioneer Village.
Hello, Quad Cities. Hello, Quad Cities. Hello, Quad Cities. Hello, Quad Cities.
Hello, Quad Cities.
Hello, Quad Cities.
Hello, Quad Cities.
Hello, Quad Cities.
Hello, Quad Cities.
Hey there, Quad Cities.
Hey there, Quad Cities.
Hello, 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 Quad Cities.